Well, my friends, we have reached day 70. Unbelievable. And Interlude 7. And there's something that is subtly different about reaching the final interlude compared to some of the other interludes that we've had. Not necessarily in a dramatic way, but obviously we're close enough now to see the end of this daily stretch with the final entry, which is going to land at the end of February. Next Saturday will be the last daily video. And that proximity changes the way that I'm experiencing this whole project. And I'd say less in a kind of sentimental way and more in a clarifying way. Now, earlier in the project, I'd say that everything felt exploratory, almost deliberately with a kind of a scattered feel. I was trying different things out without worrying whether they connected to one another, and we had dark interpretations and ambient soundtrack sketches. We had sort of hilarious meme-worthy grooves, minimal melodic ideas. And at the time, I think, early in the project, all of it felt quite eclectic, but listening back now and listening back to some of the earlier days, I think has been such an informative thing for me to do in the last 10 days or so. And I'm starting to hear threads between all of the ideas. Kind of like there's a tonal identity that's forming, which I'm really, really pleased with. I think there's a certain restraint. There's a leaning toward sort of mood over any kind of maximalism, and a preference for tension over resolution. So even though we've definitely had days, and I can hear it when I listen back, that feels like random exploration, actually when I zoom out and I listen to everything, it's sort of beginning to resemble what I'd like to feel is a body of work. And that's sort of the whole point of doing the album. So I think, yeah, this shift has been gradual, but it's definitely been there. I think as well for me, the internal experience has shifted too. So in the first few weeks, the challenge itself sort of carried the momentum. So, showing up on a daily basis, it sort of felt kind of novel and almost adrenaline driven, especially because there was so much positivity in such a short period of time, especially in the first 5 to 10 days or so. And now obviously that novelty has gone in a sense, but what's been left is something that's been more important in terms of the whole raison d'etre to this progress, which is habit. And you guys know, you guys that have been on the train for the past 70 days, and I love you all for it. Some days to me have felt effortless, and some days have felt like discipline. And the difference now is that the habit is stronger than the mood. So I don't wait to feel inspired in order to begin. And I think that's a really subtle change and a really subtle difference that is more valuable than any single idea or sketch that I've had. I think the role of the community and the role of all of you guys that have been on the train has evolved as well. Early on, spoken a little bit about earlier on in the first 5 to 10 days of this whole process. And the encouragement felt so energizing because it was so genuinely surprising. And now what's striking to me is the attentiveness. So the comments haven't just been supportive and positive, but they're unbelievably observant. So people are noticing my harmonic choices, recurring moods, and even when there are subtle shifts in tone, not even just from week to week, but day to day. And genuinely, I hope you guys know that Album Select 1 and 2 and the upcoming Album Select 3 haven't just been sort of cynical engagement mechanics. They've revealed something that's been way, way more meaningful to me. And that's that people are listening so carefully and, like I say, with such attentiveness. And that changes how I listen back to the work myself. It genuinely does. And I've said this before, that the overarching thing that I've loved about the last 70 days is that it hasn't just felt like some sort of streak to maintain, but it's felt like a genuinely shared archive. Now, with only a handful of daily entries remaining, there's a temptation to try and make every remaining day big, a big, meaningful, impactful sketch. But I actually don't think that's the right approach. And I think that's because the last few days, from today through to next Saturday, I'm not going to see as being all about escalation, but more about refinement, and it's about allowing the ideas that genuinely have weight to just reveal themselves naturally, which I think is mostly what I've been doing in the last 70 days. And just really trying not to force significance because we're approaching an ending. And I think the whole point to that is that there's something fitting about letting the project land the same way it began, which is with curiosity and consistency and not necessarily spectacle. So, my Field Notes by Kai friends, 70 days ago, this was an experiment in discipline and commitment, and now it feels like genuinely the early stages of the album taking shape. It's genuinely going to happen. It is a thing. We have enough tracks and ideas to choose from, and I think we're all mostly on the same page about what those will be. But there's still time left, and there's still room for surprise, and there's still space for quiet days. But I have loved having you on this journey with me, and we've got another 7 compositions, another 7 ideas to come between tomorrow and next Saturday, the last day of February. And I cannot wait to have you still aboard that train before we head into our album select 3 video. And then I can start to bring you some slightly more diverse OP1 field and composition and approach content. Now that we can sort of free ourselves from this rather incredibly intense first stage of the progress. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been Interlude 7 and Day 70. This is Field Notes by Kai, and I will see you on Day 71. Until then, from me and Steve, take care of yourselves.